Welcome back, you guys. Thanks for watching. So today I'm going to be doing a spoiler-filled review and rant on the Winners Trilogy. So if you haven't read this trilogy yet and you don't want to know what happens, then just put this on your to watch later, go read the books, and then come on back. So let's start with Winter's Curse. Winter's Curse is following Kestrel and Aaron. So Kestrel is the daughter of the Valorian army's general. And so she was raised in this like military lifestyle. Her father wants her to be in the military. And the Valorians took over Haran and enslaved the Harani people. And so they are the conquerors in this region here. Kestrel goes to the market with her friend and they're doing a slave auction. And Kestrel notices this slave, who we later find out is Aaron, and he caught her eye. So he had this like rebellious look to him, and the auctioneer also mentioned that he could sing. And Kestrel was really into music. So she plays the piano and it's very sentimental for her. And so this kind of caught her eye. And she starts to bid for him. She bids it pretty generously. And so everyone else is looking at her like, if the general's daughter wants him, then shouldn't we want him too? So everyone's hands start to raise. And so in order to get him, Kestrel bids really, really high. And it was honestly a lot higher than anyone else would have ever paid for him. So she wins the auction and purchases Aaron. And so Kestrel takes Aaron to her house, and he becomes one of their slaves. So they have multiple slaves that are working there, but he becomes one of the slaves. And off the bat, he is not happy. He's like, I don't owe you anything. I'm not happy to be here. He doesn't even really talk to her at all. But as the book is progressing, she makes an effort to talk to him. She starts to develop these feelings for him, and vice versa. So he can't stand Valorians. He has every right to, but he hates them. They enslaved his people. So he really can't stand any part of this situation, but there is something different about Kestrel. And she doesn't act like the barbaric Valorians that he's always seen. She shows him kindness. We also learn that Kestrel has like a nurse, or someone who took care of her, who is also a Harani slave, but she always treated her with kindness, and she even freed her whenever she got the opportunity to do so. And that's a really big deal, freeing a slave. And so Aaron saw that she did that, and it becomes hard for Aaron to really hate her. And so as the book is progressing, they start to develop feelings for one another, even though they're obviously trying not to, because they know they shouldn't. They know this is not allowed, it's forbidden, and it would look really bad for either side, whether it's Kestrel or Aaron. It would look really, really bad that they were having this relationship with one another. So they keep this a secret. Well, we find out that Aaron has been helping the Harani to form a rebellion to overthrow the Valerians. And at the ball that Aaron's escorting Kestrel to, they find a reason to leave. And so they're leaving the ball, they're in the carriage, and an explosion at the ball goes off. And Aaron is very obviously showing that he knew that was going to happen. Kestrel starts to kind of put two and two together, and she realizes, you knew about this. And then that's where it's kind of revealed that Aaron is a part of this rebellion. And he even used some of the information that Kestrel provided him in order to make this successful, like such as her father and the army being sent away. That was information that she gave Aaron, not knowing that he was planning this, and he used that to his advantage. So he overtook her home, they overtook the entire land and territory, and so now the Harani are in control, and the Valerians are now the conquered people. For Kestrel, this was a huge betrayal. So she feels like Aaron never really liked her. He was just using her, and in a way he was, The whole plan from the very beginning was to get Aaron into her home so that way he can spy and get information, because Kestrel's father is the general of the army. So they thought this would be a really good strategy to plan how they're going to overthrow the Valerians. And so in a way, like for a very long time, he was doing just that. He was spying, he was getting information, and he was getting close to Kestrel in order to make this successful. But of course, along the way, he really started to develop feelings for her, and he never wanted her to get hurt. And so this was hard for him. It was hard for him to betray Kestrel, but in the end, he'd much rather liberate his people. That is the ultimate goal, and that's what they ended up doing. So after the Harani overthrew the Valerians, Aaron is basically in control. So he's not the higher up, but he's definitely up there. I'd say he's second in command at this point. And he's keeping Kestrel as his prisoner. And to Aaron, this was the only way to keep her alive. Otherwise, they would have instantly killed her. And so he's pretending to hate her. He's pretending, oh, I want to keep her as a prize, as a spoil of war. Like, she's mine to do with whatever I want to do with. And so he has to act like he hates her in order to keep her alive, because he does care about her still, and so he wants to help her. But for Kestrel, again, she still believes that he's this horrible person that took advantage of her. Even though she's angry and the roles are reversed, he's in control and now she's the prisoner, the slave, she's still like has those feelings. So she's battling between, I'm the general's daughter, who do you think you are, versus like still having these feelings. And so she finds an opportunity to escape at the end, and she leaves. It's an emotional departure from Aaron because he loves her and she still has feelings for him. But instead of going to her father and helping her father take over Haran again, she took that time while she was prisoner to really get to know the Harani and get to know like how the war started in the first place. And she's not very happy with it. She's not very proud of her people and how they took over the Harani. And so instead of going back to her father instantly, she makes a deal. So she makes a deal with the emperor to marry his son, the crown prince. And in exchange, the emperor will give the Harani their freedom. So they will get the opportunity to have their own territory. So they will no longer be slaves. Kestrel doesn't tell Aaron that she made this deal in order to save him and his people, because she knows that if he knew that was the only reason why she was marrying the crown prince, then he would never let her. And so she had to lie. And she says, no, I want this. I'm gonna be the crown princess. I'm gonna have all these jewels. I'm gonna be, rich. I'm gonna have power. She has to, in a way, like break his heart to get him to let her go. So that way his people can be free. So inside, she's like hurting because she's having to let go of Aaron and marry this man that she doesn't even want to marry. She has to now be this crown princess when she doesn't want any of that. But she knows it's the only way to help Aaron and his people. And so she makes this deal and she convinces Aaron that she wants this, that she doesn't love him, but she wants to marry the crown prince. And so they agree. And that's how the first book ends. And then we get to Winter's Crime. So this starts off like right after the end of Winter's Curse. And so Kestrel is getting ready to marry the crown prince, and Aaron is back home ruling over the Harani people. Now this has a lot of conflict in it, a lot of political conflict. The only thing I didn't like about this book is that Kestrel and Aaron are separated, so they are no longer together. Kestrel is living with the emperor, and he's not a good guy, so he's a very corrupt and evil emperor. And she's having to, in a way, play double agent. And so the emperor's doing kind of these horrible things to still have control over the Harani, and even like killing them. Like, he's not a good guy. And so Kestrel's playing a very dangerous role. And so she's having to act like she agrees with the emperor, that she doesn't like the Harani, but she's sending information and kind of helping like twist the plans. That way the Harani are not getting as hurt, but she has to do it in a way to where it looks like she's helping the Valorians, not the Harani. So she's definitely playing double agent here. And so she ends up going by this code name, the Moth. And so she's working with a guy who is with the Harani. So they're sending messages back and forth. And the man knows that Kestrel is the Moth. The rest of the book, it's carrying on with her really having to play that double agent role, and Aaron having to really step up and be a leader for Harani to keep his people alive and safe. Meanwhile, Kestrel's really seeing how cruel this emperor is. And then we see her relationship with her father take an interesting turn, I guess. Kestrel has a very difficult relationship with her father. So in the first book, he had a lot of high expectations for her. He wanted her to be a part of the military. He had very high standards, and he loves her. But that love kind of comes at a price. He cares a lot more about honor and loyalty to the Valorians than he does about his relationship with his daughter, from what it seems. And so Kestrel, in the first book, she tries really, really hard to get his approval and to get his love. That got to a really hard point whenever she purchased Aaron, because she knew that if her father found out that she loved Aaron, that he would probably kill him and be really disapproving of her, and she didn't want that. And so in the second book, we see him growing that relationship with her. He's proud of her. He's excited because she's getting the approval of the emperor. And to him, that's very important, being the general of his army. But we get to a point where Aaron starts to suspect that Kestrel is the Moth. He starts to believe that she is the agent who's helping out the Harani people from inside the kingdom. And so he goes over there, he sneaks in to try to talk to her, and he finds her in the piano room, and she's playing the piano. She's by herself. And so he sneaks in, and he's basically saying, like, I know you're the Moth. I know that you've been helping us. I love you. I don't know why you're doing this. Little does he know, Kestrel's father is watching behind one of those, like, there's two-sided mirrors, so like we can't see him, but he's watching from the other side. And this is something that Kestrel had been doing with her father. It was like kind of like a bonding moment for them. So he would sit and watch her play the piano, and that was kind of like how they had been bonding lately. And so she knew that her father was watching. So she kept trying to give Aaron little clues, like stop talking, like can't talk right now. But he just is confessing everything. And so Kestrel's father heard it all. And Kestrel has to like keep up this ploy. And so she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you're crazy, get out of here. And so Aaron believes her again. And Kestrel's like, oh shit. And so Kestrel's father, being the person that he is, like his top priority is loyalty to the emperor, to the Valorian army. Like that is his number one goal in life. And so to him, what Kestrel did, because he knows now that Kestrel was the Moth and has been a spy, that was the ultimate betrayal. That was the worst possible thing that she could have done. And so he punishes her. He goes to tell the emperor what she did. He chooses his army and the emperor over his own daughter, and he turns her in. So the emperor sends her off to this like labor camp as punishment, which is like the worst like outcome besides being executed, I guess. But like this is like a horrible punishment. And so at the end of the book, she's in this wagon being taken away to this labor camp. They make like a quick stop, and there's this person passing by, and she catches their attention, and all you can see through like the barred window is her hand, and she gives this person a moth. It's like a little dead moth. And she tells him, give this to your governor, tell Aaron, and then before she can finish her sentence, he gets like whisked away. He takes the moth and he goes, and he's gonna go find Aaron. But Kestrel really doesn't have a whole lot of hope because she didn't get to finish her sentence. And so all she really did was give this stranger a moth and say, give this to your governor. So she has no idea if this is gonna work and if Aaron's gonna get the message and even know what it means. Like, he might not even understand or know that it was her, but that's like her only hope. And so that's the end of the book. Her father betrayed her and she's off to this labor camp. And then we get into the last book, Winner's Kiss. So this is the last book in the series, and it was really, really good. So this book starts off with Kestrel in the labor camp, and there they get drugged. That's to kind of keep the rebellion down, so they're really controlled and they become addicted. And so it's a really easy way to control all of the prisoners and to keep them weak. And so she tries her hardest to stay strong, but she's really forced to take these drugs, and at one point she even gets whipped. And so she really just kind of falls in with all of the other prisoners. But Aaron gets the message from the little moth, and he gets the message, and at this point he doesn't believe it's Kestrel anymore because she literally told him in the piano room that it wasn't her. But he knows at this point that the moth was captured and is heading for a labor camp. And then he has like a dream. So he has a dream of like Kestrel's like dress from one day, and it triggers like a memory of what the person was saying that gave him the moth. And so he goes back to the person and says, okay, describe the person to me again. And he's like, oh, I couldn't see anything except for their hand and like maybe their sleeve. And so he gets him to describe everything, and he basically describes Kestrel by the way she talked, by her skin tone, and by a birthmark that she has. And so Aaron's like, holy crap, the moth is Kestrel. She's been lying this whole time. And so he sets off to go rescue her. So he gets to the work camp and he does rescue her. She has been drugged the whole time that she was there, and the drug really affected her memory. So she doesn't even know who Aaron is when he goes to rescue her. And so he gets her out, and it's hard because she has no idea who this man is. She doesn't know why he's rescuing her. She doesn't know anyone that she's going back to. All she knows is that she's the general's daughter, that he betrayed her, and that her and Aaron have some weird connection, but she doesn't understand it. The book progresses with Aaron still trying to find a way to get back at the Emperor and to truly this time, liberate his people and end this war that's going on with the Valorians. Also, at the same time, he's trying to help Kestrel get her memory back, or even just to feel like herself again, to feel safe. Kestrel, meanwhile, is really struggling. She has like bits and pieces of memory, but she does remember her father betraying her. And this is extremely traumatic and heartbreaking for her. Because remember, like throughout the books, she loves her father and she's always just wanted his approval, just wanted his love. But once again, he puts his position over her, and that's really heartbreaking and hard for her to accept. She also knows that there's something there with Aaron, but she doesn't understand it, and that scares her. She doesn't understand because she has like bits and pieces of memory. So she remembers him like taking over like with that rebellion, keeping her prisoner, and then she also associates him with why she was in the work camp. And so she's just really confused. And a lot of her memories are very conflicting. Time goes on and she starts to remember a little bit, but not all of it. But she's starting to trust Aaron, and she still remembers a lot about like Valerian versus Hirani. And so she again like is getting to know the Harani, and she understands that the Valerians need to be taken down because they're not good people. The Emperor's not good and her father's not good. And so she's kind of siding with Harani now. And so closer to the end, it becomes like an all-out battle, an all-out war between these two sides once again. So it's kind of like a repeat of the war that happened so long ago that enslaved the Harani people. But this time Kestrel is on the opposite side. And so she, over time, really learned to trust Aaron again. And their relationship really grew in this book. In the end, they do conquer and they take her father prisoner, and she doesn't kill him. She keeps him alive, but she basically wants him to suffer. She wants him to suffer, and knowing that he betrayed her, that he gave up his own daughter. And so that's kind of like his punishment, is to just know that he did that. And in a way, her father kind of breaks because he has his own internal struggles that he was battling with this whole time, because he is ingrained into loyalty and he put all of his energy into the military, especially after Kestrel's mother died. So I feel like when her mother died, he really just kind of, a part of him died inside, and he put all of that love and effort into the military. And so it was hard for him because he does love Kestrel, but to him, she betrayed him. And so in reverse, he ended up betraying her. And so there was a lot of conflict between them two. In the third book here, it was really like kind of behind the scenes, but very important at the same time, was that relationship and that pain there. And so in the end, she stays with Aaron. She loves Aaron, and they stay together, and they have a future together, and with the Harani and their free people. And the Emperor gets taken down, and we get to end the book and the end of the series with hopes for this good future with kingdoms and territories that can get along, and there's no more conquering or enslaving people. And so it's a good positive ending, and Aaron and Kestrel came back together despite everything that happened. So the series is really like liberating. It's really just about like freedom for everybody. And I see it kind of as like, I'm thinking back to like my childhood and Disney princesses, but I'm thinking about like Pocahontas, which we're not talking about like the real Pocahontas story, but like the Disney version of Pocahontas, but where we have the two sides, and then, you know, John Smith and Pocahontas, they fall in love and they have this secret relationship, and then there's the big battle at the end, and they're like, no, like standing against their own people and saying, no, we need to come together, like we are the same. And that's really how this series was. We had Aaron and we had Kestrel, and they really brought their people together. It was a happy ending. I absolutely loved this series. I loved the romance. I really liked that they were fighting for something. I really liked, this is really weird to say, but like I really liked that Kestrel lost her memory, because I feel like that was a really powerful moment for the book, because Kestrel is such a strong character. In the third book, she had to be really vulnerable. So she didn't feel safe. She didn't feel happy. She felt like betrayed. And so Aaron really helped bring her back there. This series was very political and lots of conflict in terms of like kingdoms and political strategy. So there was a ton of strategy in this book, and so that was really cool to see. I also liked to read about like kind of like the different culture there, like the difference between Harani and Valerians. They're kind of described as being like barbaric, but obviously more powerful in terms of army, like in their resources and money. And then they were also described as being beautiful. So the Valerian women were described as being beautiful. Whereas like Harani, like they seemed to be depicted more as like very cultural driven. They're more of like sophisticated. So they started off as being like the ones in power with books and culture and this beautiful language, and so it was just interesting seeing the difference in cultures there. And then I was really glad to see the Harani liberated at the end. I loved Aaron and Kestrel together. I feel like I say this with all of the fantasy romance books that I read. I always love the couples, but I just really loved Kestrel and Aaron. They're both really strong leaders, and I really liked seeing them come together to really right the world. So if I had to give this series a rating, I think I would give it a 4.7. There's really nothing to complain about. I think the only things was that there wasn't a ton of world building, but I just really loved the relationships. I think it was very character driven, and that's what I really liked about this series. It was just such a good series, and I highly, highly recommend it. You have to go read this series. But that's about it for today, you guys. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to like and subscribe if you want to watch more. Bye!